Hello, BookTube. We are continuing with my library tour from you-know-where. We are still on bookcase number 2. We have moved to shelf number 4, and we are on subsection A. No idea how long this is going to go. We have a long way to go before we even get done with bookcase number 2. Not all the bookcases will take this long, but the next few bookcases are mass market paperbacks, and that takes a lot of time. So, let's start with subsection A. Let's see what our first book is here. They are crammed in here. Our first book is a terrific anthology by Donald Walheim. This is Swordsman in the Sky. Everybody should have a copy of this. Let's see here. We have Swordsman of Lost Terra by Paul Anderson. We have People of the Crater by Andre Norton. We have The Moon That Vanished by Lee Brackett. We have A Vision of Venus by Otis Aldebert Klein. And we have Kaldar World of Antares by the great Edmund Hamilton, who we are going to see. To put it mildly, we are going to see Edmund Hamilton again. But then we have something by James Blish. So obviously this should not be on this shelf, right? Because we already had a block of James Blish just the other day. I should actually be able to see that block from where I'm sitting. But I do not. Of course, I do not. But this is James Blish. This is Esper. ESPR. An old, still in perfect condition. This is exactly what it looked like when you saw it at a spinner rack, but I don't know how much of a read this would take. I'd have to be careful with it. I'm not good with being careful. This is from 1952. So this is squarely in the ambit of Rocket Summer this July, where we're reading older science fiction. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing here is squarely in that ambit. Okay, then we have something by John Dalmas called The Yingling. Probably in the tradition of Conan. I think I got this last year and have not read it yet. We have Jongor of the Lost Land by Robert Moore Williams. Tarzan ripoff with a, let's just say, odd cover. I really need, believe it or not, the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, my bookshop, is so good at getting just everything in the world that I do see copies of this, and I really do need to get one because this is going to fall apart the next time I read it. Then we have Frank Belknap Long. This is Monster from Out of Time, also in the tradition of Conan, and also in the tradition of Pellucidar, where a normal civilized man is brought to a savage land. Okay, then we have a couple of ace doubles that are in actually good condition. I mentioned before we saw an ace double. Again, I should be able to see it from where I'm sitting. We saw an ace double that was in terrible condition. But every once in a while at the Brattle Bookshop, I find some that are still in perfect condition. In other words, they will take at least one read. And the ace double is where you have a book on one side and then you flip it over and you have a completely different book on the other side, rather than them just running sequentially. So the one I have here is by Barrington Bailey. This is The Star Virus. Pretty good cover. Usually the ace double covers are not good. And then you flip it over and you've got John Jakes, Massive Chaos. John Jakes is to put it mildly, popular in ace double novels. This next one we have another ace double. This is The Wagered World by Lawrence Janifer and S.J. Trebich. And then you flip it over and you have John Jakes again. So tonight we steal the stars. They were meant to be terrific fun. What did you get? What did you get these for? 75 cents. So you got these for 75 cents at a time when, a cheap mass market paperback, actually, let's see. Let's do the math right here. A cheap mass market paperback would have cost you 35 cents. So you were paying for 2 books, but you were getting them in one binding. Then we have Cap Kennedy, number 12, The Genetic Buccaneer by Gregory Kern, which is, it's a slim little thing. It's a Daws paperback, but it does not have the bright yellow spine. This comes from 1974, so this would be probably a little too late for Rocket Summer, but probably squarely in the territory of Garb August, I would guess. Anything that has number 19 on the cover. Okay, then we have, this next one is an odd lack. I'm sure that a classic science fiction fan of a certain vintage would look at my shelves and notice that this author is simply not there, except for this one option. And I do need to fix that the next time I encounter a block of mass market paperbacks of this guy. Since science fiction feels to me so much like I should read it in mass market paperback. That's how I fell in love with it. But the author is Arthur C. Clarke, who's never done anything for me. His fiction's never done anything for me. I have Dolphin Island. But that's it. And this is in terrible shape. I imagine that the only Arthur C. Clarke you have is Dolphin Island. Even I recognize that should not be true. So I will fix it. They will turn up. Okay, then we have Hal Clement. This is probably his best-known book, Mission of Gravity. I really liked this cover, so I grabbed it. I think I have this in an anthology volume, and maybe a different cover as well, a different mass market cover, but I grabbed this. Hal Clement is also a science fiction author who's never really done anything for me, but I keep trying, I keep hoping. Okay, then we have another Timescape. This is pocket science fiction. They did a volume on the best of Randall Garrett with a Rowena cover there and an introduction by Robert Silverberg that is just wonderful. This is an author who, not Silverberg, but Garrett has largely disappeared. Unfortunately, he's not remembered anymore. He wrote quite a bit, and I wish I had more of it than I do. We're going to see more of him, but this is terrific. And also has the Timescape logo there, which, like I've mentioned many times in many shelves here, was kind of a guarantee of quality. For a long time, it was kind of a guarantee of quality. But that best of is not to be confused with the Del Rey best of. Again, we've seen a lot of these in this tour, and this is another one. This is the best of Elsbreg de Camp. With this cover, that is a Darrell K. Sweet cover. I mentioned that at the beginning of this tour, however many years ago, I mentioned that the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston currently has a whole bunch. They got a bunch of best of collections only in hardcover. And the hardcovers for these best ofs had different artwork. New covers were commissioned for the paperbacks, of all of them. And I mean, some of the covers on some of the hardcovers are really good. The cover of, if you can Google it, the cover for the best of Elsbreg de Camp in hardcover is quite good. It's a quite good cover. But I had it in my hand, and I thought, I've got this, and this is a terrific cover too, so I don't need two copies. I don't like Elsbreg de Camp that much. Then we have a novel by Howard Waldrop, science fiction author that, again, science fiction and fantasy are terrible to their progenitors. They eat their elders alive, so you don't know about the past, the history, the long lines of provenance. You don't typically know about those things when you're a newcomer to either science fiction or fantasy. Maybe it's a little bit better preserved in fantasy, but science fiction, no. And particular types of science fiction authors, absolutely not. They are gone completely. Or fantasy, I mean, Randall Garrett is gone completely. But so is this author. Howard Waldrop is gone, and I have mentioned him on this channel most often in connection with his short story, The Ugly Chickens, which I love. But I love a lot of his short stories, and this is a novel of his, Them Bones. From, I'm assuming this is the 80s, because you've got this weird background there. Is that true? Is this the 80s? Yeah, 1984. And see, this thing is, the pieces are falling off it already, because that's just that fell right off the back. That's the problem with mass market paperbacks. That's what I've been saying in all of this library tour. People hoard them. There are a number of booktubers who show their hoards on camera. There are a couple of people who have crept onto BookTube who have those hoards merely to sell. They are not interested in the books. They have no idea what they are. They are book dealers who have crept onto BookTube to build a business. You under no circumstances should give them business. Don't validate that approach. The sooner they leave, the better. They don't care about books. If they could get a quarter of a cent more profit margin selling used shoes online, they would do that and drop these book things like a hot rock. But there are true believers who have huge tranches of these things in the background of their shows. But the things themselves are falling apart. And you'll have collectors here and there who'll have a whole basement full of these things that they never touch. Collectors tend to shift away from being readers. That's a shame. But outside in the world, there are fewer and fewer of these. I've never seen another copy of this out in the wild. I'm sure they exist, but I've never seen one. So, when a piece falls off one of these things, a little piece of me moans. Okay, then we have Keith Laumer. Keith Laumer is another science fiction author who I think has been canceled. And his signature creation is Retief of the CDT. a diplomatic. It's the corps diplomatique terrestrienne. It's the diplomatic corps. And he is supposed to be solving things with stiffly worded memos and whatnot, but he prefers laser guns and his fists. It's a terrific premise of him confronting the world and also the shrill protestations of his pontified superiors. I love the Retief stories, absolutely love them. We're going to encounter a lot of them. I don't think we have encountered any of them so far, but we will. I have a few volumes of Retief, and this is a novel, Retief of the CDC. Oh no, this isn't. This isn't a novel. No, this isn't a novel. No, this isn't a novel. This is just a collection of short stories with another Rowena cover. It's complete with a codpiece, which you don't often see on science fiction and fantasy covers. Then we have Roger Zelazny, an author that he's not high on my list, but he's getting there. I've been thinking about him, approaching him a lot more since one of Michael K. Vaughan's endless reading projects is to read the Amber novels of Roger Zelazny, clearly his best work. Although, I don't know, I like Doorways in the Sand quite a bit. I like The Lord of Light quite a bit. This is his book Road Marks, which I found in this old Del Rey mass market paperback. I'm pretty sure that these Del Rey paperbacks tend to hold up on a reread. I liked Road Marks when I read it originally. Okay, then we have another author that I have been creeping around the edges, reading more and more of, and starting to reassess and like a lot more. That's Jack Williamson. I have a couple of novels and also a best of. And I have this, which is a combined volume. This is C.T. Ship and C.T. Shock. So two shorter science fiction novels combined in this volume. I read C.T. Ship a million years ago. Did I read it when it first came out? Oh, well, no. I read C.T. Ship in a paperback that didn't look like this. I've never seen the paperback that I read it in. A long time ago. 60 years ago. And I don't think I've ever read C.T. Shock. But these are older, so these will count for Rocket Summer, I'm pretty sure. Okay, then we have a fantasy collection. We've already seen one of these. Yes? Anywhere Within View? How could the books that we looked at just yesterday be not visible anymore? How could that be? But anyway, yesterday or the day before that, we saw an anthology of fantasy stories called Swords Against Darkness #4. But I also have the first one, Swords Against Darkness, with this terrific cover. Edited by Andrew Offutt, in the tradition of Robert E. Howard. What have we got here? Next Semerkit by Robert E. Howard and Andrew Offutt. The Tale of Hauk by Poul Anderson. Smile of Wesia by Geo Proctor. Pride of the Fleet by Bruce Jones. Straggler from Atlantis by Manly Wade Wellman. The Ring of Set by Richard Tierney, which is the only thing by him I've ever read. I don't have any books by Richard Tierney. Lagerut's Bane by Raul Garcia Capella. Dragon's Teeth by David Drake, who I want to grab it, but of course it won't be here. But Dragon's Teeth is it's a terrific story that is kind of sort of set in the same conceptual universe as the book Killer that we saw. And The Sustenance of Hoke by Ramsey Campbell. So a pretty meaty anthology. Although I won't be using this. I won't be using fantasy anthologies for Rocket Summer. Okay, then we have the first volume of The Phoenix Legacy by M.K. Wren. Totally forgotten now, but these are terrific. They're very much along the lines of Dune, of royal houses and the working in an imperium and constantly vying against each other and a messiah figure coming out of that whole story. But they're done with a lot of real energy. And the first book in the trilogy is The Sword of the Lamb, which originally looked like this. And then this trilogy was reissued with far more conventional science fiction covers. I like this cover quite a bit. So I have this one, although I'm pretty sure, I mean, we'll go through this and see, but I'm pretty sure that I don't have Volume 2 and Volume 3. I almost don't want to remember their names. This is The Sword of the Lamb, and then Volume 2 is... They're not listed. I bet this is the paperback that was originally here, so I bet they weren't written yet. I do occasionally see House of the Wolf, I think, is one of the other two. I do occasionally see them, and I keep meaning to get them, but obviously haven't so far. And then Rob Thurman, this is Moonshine. This is one novel set in his urban vampire series. I'm not big on the whole urban vampire phenomenon, so I've largely... I don't think I have all of these. I don't think I have any of the rest of them except for this one. I do kind of enjoy them. There's so clearly... some of you remember from the Twilight Saga, there were teams. You could be on teams of the two bad boy heroes, and the teams didn't confer, and there was shipping material between them and whatnot. And once again, Mark Richardson is saying shipping material, and once again, we all have to tell him it's not that kind of shipping. This seems to lend itself to that. These are the two characters involved. They are pretty well drawn, especially the real bad boy. He is well drawn, but a little of that goes a long way, and Rob Thurman splatters it all over the whole series of books, so it gets a little bit old. I don't think Moonshine is the first one in the series. I think a book called Nightlife is, and I don't think I have Nightlife. I have it as an ebook, but I don't think I have it as a paperback, so I don't know why I have this one. Maybe it's the cover. I absolutely love this cover. Who is this author? Kennedy? Is that his name? You're not going to tell me? No? You've got a cover that's really distinctive and it's selling and you're not going to tell me? Who is it? I don't remember the name of this author. Not Kennedy, but it's an Irish name. It might be McGrath. Well, I don't remember his name. It might be McGrath or Kennedy or something like that. He did once upon a time. He did a lot of covers, and I kind of like the moodiness of them, but I don't have any of the others of these. And believe it or not, I think although this is a shorter library tour, I think that's the place to stop. That is subsection A, and you can't see the shelf, but subsection B is going to be a bit of a process. So rather than try to latch that onto this, I think we'll just stop here. With subsection A. So we'll move on. We're still in Bookcase 2. We're nowhere near the end, but we are, I think, past the halfway point. So we'll just move on to the next shelf next time. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.